Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. We're going to be covering Microsoft Planner, and our presenter today is Ben Kirk, one of our fabulous CTO facilitators. I'm going to hand over now to Ben and looking forward to some good learning. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Ben Kirk, and I'm one of the desktop applications trainers for CTO training. And I've been training for 25 years. So it was May 1995. I did my first course in WordPerfect for Windows, which some of you may know. Anyway, today it's Microsoft Planner that I'm going to take you through a bit of an introduction to. So let me share my screen first of all. Oh, I need some technical assistance. Apparently, screen sharing is disabled for participants, so I'll need to have that fixed. Ah, there we go. That should do it. All right. Okay, you should be able to see my desktop now. And as you can see, it's Windows 10, but everything I do would be the same if you're using Mac OS. If you have an iMac or MacBook, then everything I'm going to be doing today is going to be in a browser, so would be the same either way. Now, before I get into Planner itself, just to explain what it is, it's one of the Microsoft 365 collaboration and productivity apps. Enables you to create tasks and assign tasks to other people. You might think, well, Outlook can do that, can't it? You can create tasks in Outlook. You can even assign tasks to other people, which is true. But the thing about Outlook is that it's more tasks that are just for yourself. It's more for creating a to-do list of things that you need to do, whereas Planner is for groups of people, for teams, for collaborating. So that's the main difference. And it has a number of features that enable you to do that much more easily than you could ever do with just the simplistic task feature within Outlook. Anyway, so going to my shared screen now. First thing I'll do is bring up a browser. I've got Edge here, and I've already got it signed into the Microsoft 365, previously known as Office 365 web portal. And so this is where you could start to use Planner. There is a Planner app for both iPhones and Android phones. There is, however, no desktop application at this stage for Planner. So I could go to Planner over here on the right-hand side of the landing page. If it wasn't there, it's mainly there because I've been using it. So if it wasn't there, then like with any other app that you don't find on the landing page, you go up to the app launcher and find it through there. As you can see, it's just over here on the left-hand side. But if it wasn't there, I could go to all apps and find it. Anyway, I don't need to do that because I've already got it open in another tab here. So let me go across to this Planner tab. And this is what you see when you first go to Planner. The Planner Hub screen, as it's called. So you can see on the left-hand side, I've got three options here: New Plan, Planner Hub, and My Tasks. I'll come to New Plan and My Tasks in due course. But the Planner Hub starts out showing you planners that you have access to. Actually, it also has this little reminder that there is a mobile version, but I'll perhaps just close that off to get it out of the way. So down the bottom here, you can see I've got recent plans. So here's another plan that I could potentially access. All plans gives me a list of all plans I have access to myself. But the plan that I was going to take you into is actually already pinned as a favorite plan. It's easy enough to make these favorite plans. You can see there's a little star at the top here. I can click it to make it not a favorite anymore and then favorite it again. And when it is a favorite, it actually gives you a few stats about the plan as well. Now I can also access the plan just over here on the left-hand side. You can see there's a list of plans here. So when I'm not looking at the Planner Hub, I can actually get to different plans that way as well. So I'll click on this plan, take you in. You can see there's a number of tasks that I've created. Now the way Planner is organized is it's got tasks that are in task lists, and the task lists are referred to as buckets. So as you can see over here on the right-hand side has an option to add a new bucket. I've already added a few extra buckets to this one though. You start out with a bucket called To Do, and then from there you can create buckets as you need them, or other members can add buckets. All right. So let me just check. Now, as far as viewing the lists of tasks is concerned, this is sort of the main way that you would interact with your tasks. But you can also see your tasks in a couple of other views. You can see at the top here, I've got an option to go to a charts view. So let me just show you that quickly. So that gives me a summary of all my tasks according to what bucket they're in and their priority. I'll go through that in a little bit. So I'll know what that means and who's been assigned and that sort of thing. There's also a schedule view. So if I go to that, it shows me everything in a calendar type view. But I'll go back to the board view again so you can see the tasks. Now, if I go across to my tasks over on the far left-hand side, I showed you this earlier, then it just basically filters it down to just the tasks that relate to me specifically. And then if I want to get back to the full list of tasks, I can just go back to the name of the plan over here on the left-hand side. So I'll go back to my awards dinner. Now, with these buckets that are created, as I say, it's easy enough to create new buckets. I've got the option over here. I can click here. Just as an example, I'll just type new bucket for want of a better name. And that new bucket is then available for me to be able to add new tasks to. Otherwise, though, I can also move tasks from one place to another just by clicking and dragging them. As you can see, I can just move that one over there to that new bucket or back to where it came from. Oops, I accidentally put it into the completed area. Actually, what I'll do is I'll point out how you can actually make that not completed. If I click on the task itself, I've got an option here to choose between not started, in progress, or completed. So I'll put it back to not started and close it again. Now, let me look at creating a new task. So going back over here to the left-hand side, I'll go to my to-do bucket, and I'll click add task there. And let's see, this is a fancy thing, so I might add a task here to arrange some limos to transport people. I'll set a due date. I'll just make it 1st of June, and I'll assign somebody to actually perform this task. I'll give this one to Blake. There you go. All right, and so that's those are the basic details you can add straight off the bat. I'll press enter there. Oh, sorry, that's added Rosie there. Click away, and if I click add another task, then it gives me another empty one I could potentially use, but then my previous one is added to the list. Now there are some more details that you can add to the task, which I might show you now as well, just using that task I've created. So let me click on it. I can choose, for example, what bucket that it's meant to go into. So maybe in this case, I'll actually change that, set it to the logistics bucket. I can also say that it's in progress rather than not started. But I'll leave that as it is for now. There's also quite an extensive list of priority options compared to what there used to be. They've recently added a couple of extras. So you've now got an urgent as well as having important, medium, and low. I'll set this as important perhaps. There's the option to add attachments down here. So you can add attachments like, well, anything really, a PDF, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever you need, images. And an option in the middle here to add checklists. So you can effectively have tasks within the overall task, if you like, subtasks, you could call them. I'll just add a few examples of what I mean. There, 3 will do. There's an option over here on the right-hand side, by the way, to show those subtasks on the card. So I'll tick that box to let you see what that means. There's the option down the bottom here to add comments as well. So that way you can actually have a little bit of a dialogue with people who are involved with the task. Somebody might add a comment, and then somebody might come along and add a comment after that, and almost have like a little conversation that way. And another option, which is quite important, I'll point out just over on the right-hand side here, is the ability to add labels. Now, the labels just start out just with the name of the color of the label, but you can rename the labels. As you can see, I've done that with a few. And so I'll add the logistics label that I created to this. Then that way actually match the bucket it's in as well. Not that they necessarily have to do that, though. All right, so I'll close that window, and you can see now all the details of that task. It's automatically moved over here to logistics because I chose for it to be in that bucket. And I've got oh, actually it's not that one. It's down the bottom here, isn't it? Here it is. And I've got my items that I added, and a few of the other details shown there as well. All right, now the members of this plan are shown at the top here. You can see on the right-hand side, I've got a list of members. I can easily add another member from here just by starting to type their name. There's also the option to filter all of the tasks because, as you can imagine, over time, these buckets potentially could get pretty full of tasks. So in order to be able to just see things a bit more clearly, you could just have it filter it down to just the important tasks, for example, or maybe just the tasks that belong to one particular label. Let's see if I go to the logistics. Now I've still got important selected, so at the moment it's only the logistics tasks that are important that it's showing me. So if I go and click on important again to turn that off, now I'm seeing all of the important ones rather than just the logistics important ones. And I can either just click on logistics again to turn that off, or if I had applied a few filters, there's a clear option just at the top. I can use that to put it back to showing everything once again. Another option I should point out on the right-hand side here is to change how it's actually grouping the tasks. So at the moment it's grouping by bucket, that's the default. But if I wanted to see a list of the tasks according to who they're assigned to, or just their progress, so whether it's not started, in progress, or complete, or by due date, labels, etc. So that can be very useful just to be able to see tasks more easily. I'll put it back to bucket again though. All right, so how does one of these plans come into existence? Well, it can either be based on an existing Office 365 group, if you have one. So for example, if you've created a team in Teams, that creates an Office 365 group. So you could then add a plan to the same group that that team belongs to. Alternatively, you could create a whole new plan from scratch. And that's what I'm going to do next, just as a quick example. So at the very top left-hand corner here, if I click on New Plan, you can see I get a window where I can add a name for my plan. If I did want to link this plan to an existing Office 365 group, as I say, like I said, it could be a team in Microsoft Teams that I've created that I want to link it to. And I could do that, but in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make it a brand new plan from scratch. Below that, it gives me the option of choosing private and public. It describes what it means there between the two. So I'll leave it as private. Only members that I add can actually see the contents of the plan. There's an options option here, but it only gives one option, which is to add a description if you wanted to do that, so members know what the plan is about. I won't worry about that in this case. And if I click Create Plan, and that will then create the new plan. And in the background, that's creating one of those Office 365 groups I referred to. So therefore, I could link Teams to it as well. I'll show you more of that in a little while, actually. All right, so now I've got a new plan. As I said earlier, you get the to-do bucket by default to start you off, a new task to start off, and there you go, away I go. If I wanted to start adding members, I could come up here and add members to my team in Planner. All right, but let me go back to my awards dinner again. Now, notice that it's the new one is over here under recent plans, but I haven't made it a favorite plan, so it doesn't appear along with the awards dinner. All right. Now, I want to give you three top tips for using Planner. And the first relates to an application I've already mentioned a couple of times, Teams. Now, you might be thinking that Planner, just another app that you have to keep tabs on. You already have your email, you might have Teams, you might have other applications that you're having to get into. But here's the good news. If you do create a plan in Planner and you link it to say an existing team that you have in Teams, you can actually just get to that plan from within Teams. So let me just bring up Teams here for a moment. All right, you can see over here on the left-hand side, I've got my awards dinner team, which is basically connected to the same Office 365 group as my awards dinner plan in Planner. And then if I go to the top here, I've got an awards dinner tab, so I can actually just get into that, and there you go, there's all my my tasks right there in a tab. And to add that tab, it was just a simple matter of clicking the plus at the top here, and then clicking on Planner, and then it would prompt you to specify which plan you wanted to attach. So, all right, so that's one. Another thing which enables you to keep tabs on things within Planner a little bit more easily is within Outlook. So let me go back to Planner again for a moment. Just so I'm doing this from Planner. There's a little more options button at the top here. You can see next to schedule, which gives me, well, of course, more options. And one of the options in there is to actually add the plan to your Outlook calendar. So I've already done that though, so I don't need to choose it. But when you do choose that, let me bring up Outlook now. Okay, and if I go across to the calendar part of Outlook, and you can see down the left-hand side here, I've got my awards dinner calendar, so I can display that right there in Outlook. Not actually have to go to Planner for that. So that's another useful tip. The third one I want to mention is to do with the Planner app itself, and it's just a quick and easy way of being able to mark a number of tasks complete quickly, or in progress for that matter. You might remember I mentioned about grouping the tasks in different ways from this little menu at the top here. So I'm going to change to group by progress, okay, in which case then I get my 3 different categories of progress. And so to mark things as complete, basically all I need to do is just drag them across. The alternative, if I'm not in this view, is, as I showed you earlier, well, there's the little tick box up here. Actually, you can use that, but you can, if you're within the task itself, which is what I was in earlier, then you can set it through the menu. But just a little tip, you can just drag them over basically and into the appropriate one. So if you drag it to the wrong one, you can just move it into a previous one. So that's another very useful tip that you might appreciate if you start using Planner, which I hope you do. Now, there may be some questions, so I will stop sharing my screen now. Actually, no, I'll leave my screen shared for the moment, but I will see if there are any questions before we finish.
Suzanne has a question.
Ben, we do have a question from Susanna. Can you see that?
No, I can't actually at the moment. Would you be able to let me know what the question is?
Okay, Susanna has asked, what are the benefits of using Planner as opposed to tasks in Calendar and Outlook?
Well, the thing about the calendar and Outlook, well, the thing about calendar and combined with tasks in Outlook is that they're more for the, well, certainly tasks are more for the individual, I think, than for a team. I think just the ability to keep tabs on a larger scale of tasks across a work group, especially considering you can actually access them through Teams, really puts Planner quite a sort of a step ahead of using Outlook. I mean, I'd certainly use Outlook for my own personal tasks that really don't relate to any other group of people or anything like that, and certainly use the calendar and all that sort of thing. But Planner is certainly much better when you've got a group of people. It's got its limitations, though. You might have thought to yourself as you've seen what it can do, and so it might be that it could be that there are other things that you need out of a task management system, in which case, I mean, you might need to go to Microsoft Project. That might be the step after that. But yeah, I think it certainly has some benefits. Yeah, that's a big step, though.
Well, thank you for that. Sylvia has asked, how do you archive a bucket if all tasks are completed and you no longer want to see it on your screen?
I don't know that you can actually archive buckets as such. I mean, as you may have noticed, there are tasks that are completed that just are able to be hidden. But as for the buckets themselves, let me have a look in this more menu over here. There's nothing in there that indicates anything that you could. So as far as I know, I don't think you can actually archive buckets as such. About the best thing you could do, perhaps, is just move the bucket further to the right, so it's kind of out of the way. So you do have the ability to move buckets around. They don't have to stay in the order that they start out with, which is just good anyways. But yeah, it certainly means you can kind of shift all those buckets that aren't really being used anymore over to the right-hand side so that they're less prominent. I suppose that's probably the best thing you could do at this stage.
Thank you for that. Catherine has asked, does it give us reminders?
Oh yes, yeah, it will give you reminders, and so there's that sort of element of integration with Outlook as well. Also with those comments, if people add comments to tasks, you can get reminders or get emails that give you the details of those comments. So you're not left completely blind. You don't have to keep going back to Planner to find new things. There's a little bit of control as well over what notifications you get, but yeah, it's certainly very good with notifying you of that sort of thing.
Great. And our last question is from Paul. Is there a way to set an alert for some of the actions in Planner? Which would be a similar thing, wouldn't it? Give me a reminder, give me an alert.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it basically, as I've said, it basically does that so that you're a bit like how you might have tasks in Outlook or calendar items in Outlook. You get notifications of when they're due or have reminders on them. Then yeah, same thing with Planner.
Terrific. We had a comment from Glenn who said maybe we could create an archive bucket and put all our archive buckets in there.
Good idea. Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah, just create a new bucket called archive, and then you potentially, and if you have things labeled, pointed out, you can add the labels to things. You could perhaps still have them sort of categorized to a certain extent by way of those labels, considering they're kind of not in their original bucket.
Terrific. Well, I'd like to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. I didn't understand what Planner could do, and for me, that's really brought it forward as something that we would perhaps use, particularly for events, as you've shown us. I wanted to say
my imaginary one.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben, for
You're welcome.
presenting that for us. Really enjoyable, really good overview of Microsoft Planner. And thank you to everyone for joining us. We have gone a little bit over, but everyone has stuck with us. We do have Microsoft Planner available as part of our training courses. So if anyone wants further training, it's certainly available. Ben's available as one of our terrific facilitators. And that's the end of our webinar for today. I'm Rosie King from Corporate Training Options. Thank you very much to Ben and to everyone for joining us. Bye for now.